Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Bourbon Basement. I'm Ryan,
And I'm Steve.
and this is not our normal night to go live, but since we had such a fiasco on Friday, we decided that we didn't want to go a week completely without having a video that could be archived and rewatched. So we decided to do a take two on our Blanton's review.
That's I was gonna say take two.
Take two, and we're gonna hope that everything goes over smoothly this time. So I guess we're gonna cross our fingers and hope for the best here.
I guess so. Have we got everything fixed? Sounds like we may be having some issues with the sound already.
We shouldn't be having issues with the sound.
Well, it's cranked all the way up and we see nothing.
You're not clicked on the video. You got to be on the video to hear it.
Ah,
So this is why we don't listen to the producer.
hey, our
Everything
producer
looks
is the
fine.
best producer in the business, guys.
Everything looks fine. So we're going to continue as planned, and we're going to cross our fingers for the rest of this episode. I'm 99.9% certain that I have everything fixed, but there's always that 0.1% of a disaster waiting to happen around every corner. So
Well, this is a new video, but the last one when we did it, we did all the history and everything. It went into 15 separate videos of like 1 and 2 minutes each, and we knew you all wouldn't want to watch that. So
it
we'll
was
just
bad. So we just deleted everything. We finally ended up at the very end of it,
yeah,
getting
you got a
getting
good
to go live.
piece.
We got 40 minutes, but you missed some of the history. You missed our entire intro and what the video was actually going to be about. It was a mess, and we just didn't want you all to have
Yeah. So if you
to
tuned in live
work.
that day, we are very sorry. If you come back and you watch this archived video, then now you know what we were dealing with. So
Like I
we'll
said, pretty sure we have everything squared away now, but there's always that 0.1%. But we're going to cross our fingers and hope for the best here as we get into a tasting and review and a little bit of history of Blanton's.
Blanton's. All right, so Blanton's, unlike one of our last videos, the Frank August, Blanton's is actually a real person. So I'm going to do a little bit of talking about that particular person, Albert Blanton, and I'm also going to talk about who created Blanton's, and then I'm going to talk about a little bit about this bottle. It's going to be a lot quicker than it sounds, though. I'm going to run through it pretty quick. I've done it once, so it's kind of like I had a rehearsal, right?
See, and we rehearsed this quite a bit because we were testing audio and stuff before the live stream. So he was going through this history and stuff to test the mic volume. So he's got this
So,
stuff down by
well,
now.
you would think, but it's me still. So
We're
anyway,
still crossing our fingers and
so
hoping.
Albert P. Blanton was 16 years old in 1897 when he officially started working at the OFC Distillery, which is the Old Fire Copper Distillery, and which is now Buffalo Trace. So he was 16 when he started as an errand boy or an office boy. I figured he pretty much just run errands. But at some point in his career, he worked in every department of the distillery. And eventually in 1912, he became the superintendent of the warehouse, of bottling, and the distillery. All right. So that was in 1912. So he had been there, what, 15 years, I
Something like
guess?
that.
So
Math.
he's 31 years old and he's there. Uh, Now, when he was the superintendent, they changed the name from the OFC distillery to the George T. Stagg distillery. Uh, he became the president in 1921. So not 9 years after the superintendent, he became the president of the company. Now, when he was the president, they were producing bunches of barrels, okay? And they run out of warehouse storage. So he was responsible. He was building some warehouses and he was building brick and stone just like all of them were. But it wasn't going quick enough. So he decided he wanted a warehouse built as quick as possible. And the quickest way to build one was a metal clad building. That later became Warehouse H. Okay, now that's important. This story is going to come full circle, guys.
Just fun fact. This is where the first stream that we tried to do really took a turn for the worst because it was fine up until Warehouse Age.
Warehouse H.
And then it all went back. So if we get past that version of the this section of the Bermuda Triangle, okay, then we should be okay for the rest of the video.
Oh man. Anyway, so he's starting to build Warehouse H, this metal clad building. It gets put up fairly quickly. They start putting barrels in there, and it wasn't until years later that he realized this made some particularly good bourbon. All right.
I agree.
It was his special spot. Warehouse H, center of the warehouse, is where he liked it. But what happened was that metal clad, it heats up the temperature inside the warehouse quicker. and it cools off the temperature inside the warehouse quicker. So it lets that bourbon inside those barrels really interact with the barrels and enjoy, or I guess it enjoys or hates or whatever. I hate that, but that Kentucky weather that we have where it's 70 one day and then 30 the next. So
We
the
experienced
temperature.
that here recently in Kentucky. It was beautiful all week, and then yesterday was like 22 degrees all day.
And
It was
when we come
cold.
back from Florida, it was like single digits in the mornings, and then it was
And then it
40
was
degree.
40 degrees up to like highs of 68. Yeah, it's
It was
welcome to
crazy.
Kentucky.
So that's our weather, and that's good for bourbon. So that makes that bourbon go into that barrel and come out of that barrel many times.
The
So
only thing it's good
it
for.
gets to interact well. So it kind of ages a bourbon more in that metal clad building. He didn't realize that till later. So as Bob Ross would say, kind of a happy little accident, right?
We quoted that before too.
Anyway, I still used it. So he was the president. He actually another thing he did. So he built Warehouse H, metal clad building, only one. Uh, then he hired, and this is going to be important, Elmer T. Lee. Now, so Albert Blanton, he worked there 55 years. All right, he worked at the Buffalo Trace Distillery for 55 years. He hired Elmer T. Lee. Now, the reason Elmer T. Lee is important, not only does Elmer have his own bourbon, but he created Blanton's. All right, so Albert Blanton hired Elmer T. Lee.
Oh, Elmer.
All right, they worked together for about 10 years, and then Colonel Blanton, he got the honor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky bestowed the honor of making him Kentucky Colonel. So the last couple 10 years or so, they called him Colonel Blanton around the warehouse.
Oh,
But
Colonel.
anyway, Colonel Blanton passed away in 1955. All right. So that's Blanton. Elmer T. Lee comes around now. He was an engineer. Blanton hired him. Wasn't going to hire him at first, and then changed his mind and hired him. Worked with him for a few years, and he later became the master distiller. So Elmer T. Lee's the master distiller. And 1 year before, so he was hired in 1959, or I'm sorry, 1949. And 1 year before he retired in 1985, he was tasked with creating a bourbon, a superior bourbon. He was tasked for putting something on the market that would bring people back to bourbon. If y'all know anything about bourbon history, there in the very late 70s and early 80s, bourbon was on a downfall. People
In a
didn't want
bad
to
spot.
buy it. They all the distilleries and everything, all the bourbons were so cheap. So that made new people think that it wasn't any good. So new people wouldn't come. The other people that had tried it, they were back on clear spirits. So bourbon was really struggling. Now,
People like us would have flourished back in that time.
the ones that like bourbon, right? We'd be like,
This is awesome.
so you all, if you all have ever seen our first episode stream on Maker's Mark, you will know that Maker's Mark influenced the bourbon world back then, and that's who Buffalo Trace was wanting to compete with. They were wanting to get that superior product out there to compete with Maker's Mark and kind of bring this back. So Maker's Mark, they kind of had an advertising campaign that said, and this is crazy, and what would turn people around, but it said it tastes expensive, and it is. So they had an expensive bourbon, Maker's Mark. They put it on the market. People started buying it because they wanted to try. Oh, this must be good because it is expensive, and they wanted to try it.
If you
So
haven't watched that episode yet, I recommend you go back and do
there's
it
a
because what
lot
he
of
just
history.
said would make a lot more sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of history on Maker's Mark in that episode. But anyway, so Elmer T's tasked with putting a product out there that's going to compete with Maker's Mark. All right. So he thinks back to his early times with Buffalo Trace, and he's thinking, what did Albert Blanton do? Well, so when Albert had a special event, when they were hosting people, dignitaries or important people, he would go out to Warehouse H. He would pick a couple barrels out of the center of that warehouse. He'd taste them. He'd like them. He'd bring them in. They hand dump those barrels one at a time and bottle them. Okay. So, and that's how they still make Blantons today. So, Elmer T. Lee remembered that. Now, it wasn't Blanton's then, it wasn't anything. It was just a gift. that Albert Blanton was given to these special visitors that he had. Okay, family members. Maybe he was taking some home. We don't really know.
I'd have liked one.
They probably weren't labeled bottles. It's probably just a clear bottle. I'm just guessing. But anyway,
He could have
so
brought it to me in a tin pan, and I'd have taken it.
so Elmer T. Lee in 1984 released that to the world. He did exactly what Albert Blanton did. So he honored Albert Blanton by naming that bourbon Blanton's, and then he sold it to the world.
We sold it.
And he's responsible. My goodness, can you believe that? Sorry, everybody. Usually I silence my phone. It's a different night. But anyway,
Wow.
I know. He released it to the world.
Don't go watch a movie
And
with this guy.
it was what the modern bourbon world considers the first single barrel bourbon. Okay. So, like back in the Old West, like all bourbons was single barrel. But when bourbon started being produced, distilleries wanted that consistency over batches. They wanted you not to be able to tell the difference in the bourbon. So, single barrel was unheard of, but Elmer T. Lee did it with Blanton's. All right. He put it out there on the market and they marketed it as the first single barrel. And he was responsible for a revolution in the bourbon industry. Between Maker's Mark and this bourbon right here, bourbon started to make a turn, and people started to want to buy it again. So he made the first premium bourbon there was. So now I've talked about Albert Blanton. Now you know how it got its name. Talked about Elmer T. Lee. You know who put it out there, and that was in '84. So let's talk a little bit about them. So here we have 3 different bottles. We got the original Blanton single barrel. We've got the barrel or straight from the barrel Blantons, and we've got the Blanton's Gold. All right. Every one of these bottles is allocated. All right. And I was looking at these bottles. They all give a little bit of description about what's going on with them, the barrel number, the bottle number, what rick house they come from, and all this stuff. So it's very interesting to read the labels if you get them. But the other thing I noticed is this kind of Blanton called this his honey barrels and warehouse H in the middle. And doesn't that kind of resemble a honeycomb?
A honeycomb, yeah.
It does, doesn't it? So maybe that's why the bottle's made that way. I don't know that
I like the look of the bottle.
But I've never read that anywhere. It's just something I'm noticing right now.
Can you hand me that one there?
All right, we're going with another one. Are you going with the little one?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Look how accurate this little bad boy is here compared to the real things. I think that's the coolest thing, and you can't really probably tell on camera, but it's got the little notches and everything at the top of the bottle. I think they did an awesome job, and this is unlike some other little bottles you get. This is actually real glass.
That's cool.
It's got its little Blanton topper on the top of it. I think that the little bottles are just as cool as the big ones.
It's cool to have in the collection. Now, I am a collector, but I drink what I collect. So
Yes.
every bourbon in the bourbon basement is going to get consumed at some point in time.
We usually try to have multiple bottles, or we try not to finish a bottle that we open until we have another one to replace it.
But sometimes that's impossible.
Sometimes it doesn't happen.
And sometimes we're not going to replace it. It's going to be an allocated bourbon that I'm not going to struggle with anymore trying to find. So
if it happens, it happens. If
some bourbons, it may be the only time we ever try it, but at least I know I've tried that particular Kentucky bourbon.
I don't know if we've ever said this before on the Bourbon Basement, but the Bourbon Basement goal is to own and drink every Kentucky bourbon.
Every Kentucky bourbon.
We don't even know.
I don't care how allocated it is. I want it at least once. I want to own a bottle of it at least once. The empty bottles, guys, I do collect. I collect the empty bottles. I decorate them with some stuff, and I put them over there so I know that I've drank that bourbon.
And we don't even know if that's a actually feasible goal, but we're going to try our darndest.
In a previous episode, 95% of the bourbon throughout the world is created in Kentucky.
So we've
Kentucky bourbon. So we got a long way to go. A long way to go. But anyway, so I do have a question. So in the last episode, you pointed out that this is bottle number 1.
This is barrel proof, straight from the barrel. This is bottle number 1 of this barrel, and I think that's an awesome kind of bottle to have.
It may be, and I don't know, you collectors out there, tell me, because I drank my bourbons. I have one bottle in here I haven't found a lot of information about that I'm going to find more information on before I open it. But we have a Pappy 12. A lot of people won't open those. We're drinking that thing next week, not on the show, but just with family. But anyway, this
Sorry about that, guys, but that's a deal that we have
we'll have another bottle eventually.
eventually. Even though it is the first Pappy that we have here in the Bourbon Basement, and we're super excited about it. We've made a deal behind the scenes with the family that we've got to drink it a certain way, and it cannot be a live stream. So sorry that we won't be able to get to share you all with that, or share that with you all. Share you all with that.
Share you all with that.
Sorry we won't get to share that with you all, but
We'll do it eventually.
I'm sure it'll be a heck of an experience for us.
All right, so we're not going to do the Blanton's Gold today, and we're not going to do this barrel proof. But
Let us know what kind of bottle this is, guys.
Should I not open this because it is bottle one, or should I open it and drink it on the show one day? That's all I want to know.
This is the stiffest bourbon that we have in the Bourbon Basement right now at 130.6 proof.
Well, I can probably get another one of those bottles eventually and drink that one and leave that one unopened if it makes it more valuable. If it doesn't, I want to open it and drink it.
But you can't see it. But right here on this white label, you might be able to see it a little bit. It says bottle number 1. So I think that that's a pretty awesome bottle to have.
It's cool,
and I don't know.
I don't know if it makes it
open it or not.
Well, I don't know if it makes it more valuable. We'll take some comments, look in our archive, leave a comment. We'll see it eventually. But today we're going to do the Blanton's single barrel, just the original. And I want to talk a little bit more about this. So the horses on this. So back in 1984, it was released with the horse and jockey. Okay.
Take a water break while you're doing this.
All right. I don't know how many, if it had 8 horses and 8 jockeys like it does today, because today there are 8 different horses with 8 different jockeys. And what it is, it spells out Blanton's today. And when it does that, it goes from B, the starting gate, walking into the starting gate, to the S, where the jockey's holding up his whip in victory, right?
I think that's a pretty awesome concept.
Eventually, we're going to have all those, but there's 8 horses with Blanton. So a little bit of history about these. So 84, it did have the horse and jockey. In 1993, they made the horse and jockey a little bit more detailed, but it wasn't until 1999 that they actually put the letters on there to spell Blanton's. So if you have one pre-99, it does not have a letter on it.
Are those rarer?
I'm sure they're rarer because they're,
they weren't produced for as long before they came out with these.
84 to 93 before it even got detailed, and then 93 to 99, so 6 years without a letter.
Let us know if y'all have a topper from before the letter stuff
and what they look like. I got a text. This is probably about the show, though. They may actually be watching the show, so I'm going to read this. Oh, nope, it's about a bourbon. It's got autographed.
Bourbon hunting.
They're bourbon hunting. Got some friends bourbon hunting out there.
We have a question now. It says, why are the toppers different colors?
Okay, so this is a Blanton's Gold, so that's why it's a different gold cup. And there's some collectors, I'm sure, that'll spell Blanton's with the gold.
I think that's a crazy. I think that's a crazy accomplishment. So if you've done that,
it'll be awesome to do.
That's awesome.
I don't think the Bourbon Basement is going to strive to do that. I think you just want these regular ones right here.
But just so you all know, before we get into why the colors are different, every topper that we have, so eventually we'd like to get a display with all the toppers, like a horseshoe or something. Every topper that we have will have been a bottle that we have owned and drank within the Bourbon Basement. We're not going to go on Marketplace and buy someone else's toppers for $25. I know the toppers aren't worth anything, but it's worth something to us as collectors to have them as bottles that we have owned and drank. So we will own all of our own letters on our toppers when we complete
we will. So, and we'll have plenty of these bottles. These bottles we'll go to the distillery and get for about $75. Of course, your gold and your barrel proof's a lot more and a lot harder to find, but
different colors.
Yeah, and I explained the gold and there's some.
Is this one a different color, or am I just? These are the same color, right?
They may be different. And wax could be throwing it off because it's got a different wax on it.
Maybe.
But before I forget, let me tell you about 2020. So up until 2020, this is the only thing you could get in America.
Just the regular single barrel.
Just the straight up single barrel, 93 proof. That's all you could get in America. These got sent overseas along with the black label and the green label and the red label. Uh, those are all overseas. And I'm going to tell you a little bit something about these, okay? So, uh, these are now, ever since 2020, you can get these in America, okay? But they still send a green label, which is a special reserve. It's only 80 proof, it goes overseas. They have a black label, which is also 93 proof, so it's going to be similar to this. It goes overseas. And they have some red and maybe another gold. It's Takara red, Takara gold, something like that. They're both 103 proof, just like the gold. Now you would say, okay, that's fine, because it's 103 proof, just like Blanton's gold. All right. So why do I need it? Well, let me tell you why you might want to try to find one of those barrel or one of those bottles that go overseas. I've been looking on auctions for them, and the only reason is so Blanton's doesn't have an age statement, okay? But from just living in Kentucky and everything, and you hear stories and you hear rumors, these are all age 6 to 8 years. Okay.
I
So
believe it.
these are all age 6 to 8 years. Well, the ones that go overseas, the black and the Takara red and Takara gold and all that, the green label, even I think the green label, don't quote me on that one. Black and red for sure. They are aged 2 more years than these. So if these
Sheesh.
are aged 6 to 8, those are aged 8 to 10. And I do tend to go toward those older bourbons. So I definitely want to try one or two of those from overseas
I think I can agree with that.
to try. Now, I think let's not beat a horse. Yeah.
Okay.
And let's get out of this and let's start doing the tasting. One thing special that you're going to see in this live video, if you're watching, or in our archive video that we didn't see the other day, is the other day, Friday, when we had difficulties, we actually emptied a Blanton's bottle. So you didn't get to hear a fresh cork pop or nothing like that.
You'll
Guess what?
get to have that today.
Today you get to hear a fresh one pop.
All right.
So that's the cool thing.
We're going to try this scene out for a little bit.
I was wondering if you were ever going to get to that.
Well, I'm afraid that if I change scenes in the middle of you talking, it'll cut your mic out until the scene comes up, so I didn't want to do that.
You could ask me to pause anytime.
Well,
Anytime.
I figured this was a good opportunity to have at it at the screen change. So hopefully, last time we were experimenting with this live chat on the screen, so I don't know if it's going to work yet or not, but I'll have some more uh, experimenting to do, I'm sure. I think this is kind of neat how they make it really easy to get your wax
But
off.
you don't.
All they do, if you've ever opened a Blanton's before, they've got two little tabs right next to each other. You peel one up, wax comes right off of it. I'm sure that if you're watching this video, you're into bourbon and you've probably had Blanton's at one time or another. All right.
There's mixed reviews on Blanton. Some people, it's very overrated, and some people think it's the greatest thing in the world.
So right now we have a O, an L, and an A, and a A. So we've got a O and L and
And
an
this
A.
one's gold, so we're not going to count that.
If we can find enough Blanton's golds to do it, we'll do it. But I don't foresee that happening.
Those are way over my budget.
All right, let's see what we get on this
Let's hear it.
pop. Woo! Short, sweet, crisp. I like that.
It's a lot better than the one that was already open though, because it was kind of
It was kind of.
Now you all
was
do
real
know
good
too that of course I told you all about distilleries trying to get consistency. Well, Blanton's, it is a single barrel. Now, it don't matter how consistent you try to be. Every single barrel
A little different.
is a little different.
So every bottle going to be at least a
You
little
and
different.
I may not be able to taste it, but their master distillers and their master tasters, they can pick out the difference. So when they do a single barrel pick for Blanton's or any single barrel, guys, they try to get the taste as close as possible. They don't mix it with anything. But this is one barrel poured. Every one of them is going to be a little bit different. So I'm interested because we did this one Friday night. We finished it. I'm interested to see if I can taste the difference.
Uh, that one. Well, I was going to say that one hasn't been open very long. That's only been open since around Christmas, I think. I was going to say I wonder if we could taste any difference in a fresh crack and one that we've already had open, because we normally have the opportunity to taste um, bottles like that side by side, because normally don't do multiple streams. Producer wants one as well.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
nice producer.
So if I'm looking at this, guys, this is ounce and a half,
No, that's about 3/4 of an ounce.
3/4 of an ounce. So if I'm looking at this, guys, well, I don't think I can come around because I don't get a good angle on it anymore, but give y'all a little, just a little more of a close up.
Them fingerprints on it.
Yep. Get those fingerprints real nice and shot there. So this does have a very nice color to it. If we want to get a little more in depth, we actually just finished a tasting last night. So if you hear us talking about the aroma stuff more, it's because we're coming off of that. We had our little the bourbon basement tasting. We usually have about 4 of them a year.
Our next show will probably be a tasting recap. So next Friday.
So we'll talk more about that then. But do we have a sheet? Do we have any spare
I
sheets?
put them. Oh,
Just the blank.
just the way it looks.
Yeah. And we'll talk, like I said, I'm not going to get into depth with this. We actually had a ranking system. And you can see the aroma, you can see appearance, taste, and finish, and that's how we ranked the bourbons that we actually tried. And I think that was pretty neat. So we may be a little more in depth with our tasting today, since we're fresh above it.
And you know, we've already done about 3 months ago. We did a tasting review on our last tasting, so you can go back and you can watch that tasting review, and you can kind of see what our next episode is going to be about. Except it's going to have different bottles.
I don't know if you can see those, guys, but it's got some wild tears on it.
Now this nose is pretty straightforward to me. I smell caramel, honey, and oak.
I smell butterscotch.
That's what you got on the last one.
I think I'm getting like oaty. Like it's like oatmeal.
Producer gets popcorn.
Brown sugar, butterscotch. It's like a caramel corn. Is that what you said? Caramel corn.
Caramel
So
corn.
producer's getting caramel corn.
Now the interesting fact that from Friday's episode that you all don't see now,
Unfortunately, sorry.
I got chocolate out of this bottle, and I'm not getting
chocolate.
I'm not getting the chocolate out of this bottle.
Remember if I said chocolate or
You said butterscotch.
the tears?
Yeah, tears are nice. It's a lighter amber. We had some stronger bourbon. This is only 93 proof. You can see the difference in the color when you put the barrel proof up there.
It's a big difference.
Look
at the difference. I can see the difference from here.
Still, yeah, I mean, just an amazing difference, but it's still a nice color.
Yes, it's a nice
just
amber.
Not deep and rich.
Yeah,
it's just a kind of a light color.
But I mean, it's a very consistent color.
Yeah, go ahead.
When we go, we try not to go back in for noses over and over again, but it's kind of hard not to do because this stuff smells amazing. So when we do our actual tasting, guys, if you've never tuned in before, I'll walk you through really quickly. We've gone on a lot of bourbon tastings, like actual distillery tours, and we kind of compiled the points out of all of them that we think go into a tasting. So your first 2 sips, there's four sips in a tasting. First 2 sips are going to be your acclimation, get rid of your burn, coating your tongue, making sure that nothing's burning anymore. Basically, when you go back in for your 3rd sip, you go in for your 3rd sip is going to be when you start trying to put some flavors. And then here on the Bourbon Basement, even though sometimes we don't want to, we do it anyway just to see how it changes the profile. We will actually, on the 4th sip, put in about 4 drops of distiller's water or purified water. It's just water that's been boiled of all impurities and imperfections. And it adds no flavor, but it can change the depth of a bourbon. So that's why we do it here on the Bourbon Basement. So you're already 2 sips in, I think.
I'm 2 in.
Okay, I've got it going for my 2. You talk for a minute.
I don't have nothing to say, so you just watch your thing. But I am pretty acclimated. It's acclimated. Acclimated. It's you swallow that. It's 93.
It's terrible. It does hurt so bad.
You should be
acclimated. What was that?
I have no idea. I get tongue tied a lot. This is just 93 proof.
Those 2 sips hit fast.
So it doesn't have a lot of burn
No,
with
it's
it.
pretty smooth to
It's
the
pretty
start,
smooth right from
except
the get
when
go.
it comes out your nose.
Yeah, if
That
you
don't feel
laugh,
very good.
don't
Don't
let
laugh
your
with
buddy
it in
make
your
you
mouth.
laugh.
Don't laugh with it in your mouth.
But it's pretty smooth going down. It's got a good mouthfeel when it's in there. It has a good coating on my tongue right now. And I'm not judging yet because I haven't taken my third one, but set on my mouth for a while now, and I'm getting a lot of great flavors. Our producer's sad with her light pour, I think.
Her sips were a little more than sit, I think.
I did give you less than we had.
Uh,
I will give you more if you want.
I don't know if I'm gonna have enough for Diller's
I
water.
don't either. I went. How come I went so light? Did I use the wrong side of the cup or what?
Uh,
Anyway,
Normally I'm telling him to slow down, but I guess he took that to
it's
heart.
our bottle. We can pour as much as we want.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna pour more if I need it.
all right.
Are you on your third?
I am on my third. On my two.
All right, let's go for our taste.
All right, this is where we're actually trying to pull out some flavors, guys.
It's so nice and smooth.
It was very good bourbon.
Caramelized peaches.
That one's a new one.
Really?
I'm getting a lot more caramel in the taste than I was on the nose.
Yeah.
Brown sugar still coming out. It's kind of like a peach cobbler. If we're picking up peaches and comparing to yours, it's kind of like a peach cobbler. Like the brown sugar and the oats on top. You crystallize it.
Yeah, that's what she's talking about. Our producer.
Yep. I'm still getting honey.
Yep.
Vanilla. It's sweet flavors, guys. This is sweet bourbon. It's very desserty. Even this could be a very easily be a dessert bourbon.
It is. It's very good.
What are you getting?
All right. So I'm true to my nose. I get the
It's
when
sweet.
I first get it, I get the caramel with a little bit of honey. Okay. But I get that oak in there, but it blends it. It blends it real well, and I think it makes it smooth, and it's very sweet, but that you get enough oak that it isn't so like outrageously sweet.
Now, side note, I know that it's on his turn, but if you've never tuned into the Bourbon Basement, I don't even say oak and smoke and bourbon anymore because I always tasted at least a little bit in every bourbon that I have.
Should taste it.
So I don't even list that as something that I'm tasting anymore because it's in every bourbon that I've tried. So, just side note.
So something I didn't smell that's a little different to my nose, and it's right what you were saying is the brown sugar. So I get the brown sugar flavor.
I was getting brown sugar on my nose too.
Now this bottle behind me, I got chocolate, and I tasted a lot of the chocolate, and but this one here, I taste caramel, brown sugar, a little bit of honey, and then that oak to balance it all out. And
It's nice.
That's what I'm getting. It's very smooth and very nice. I've got a little sip left.
I might need, just a dribble, just enough to get some water in it. I've got, literally a sip.
A dribble?
Yeah, just. Whoa, yeah, yeah, that's good.
Okay. Another dribble for you. And a dribble for me. All right. Sorry about the pores this time.
Oh my gosh, guys, it looks like the live chat is working. Vicina, hello to you too.
Nice.
It looks like the live chat's working on the screen.
All right. Well, that's great. So,
And I can see which platform you're chatting from and your name and everything. So it looks like everything seems to be working okay for the time being.
This
So that's great
stream has
news.
been pretty good and pretty technologically good anyway.
Well,
So let's hope it carries on for next week.
I think that I fixed everything. Like I said, there's always that 0.1%. I'm sure if it doesn't happen today, it'll happen at some point down the road that something's gonna hit the fan, and it should be nice and interesting for us.
All right.
Happy I worked out this time.
This is
Happy it worked out this time. I think.
Is that our producer?
Yeah, that's our producer trying to make sure that my stuff's working.
It didn't change the nose for me, and it really didn't change the flavor.
I'm not sensing much of a change of any.
I
Well,
didn't either. Now, didn't we both get changes on the last
cinnamon
bottle?
comes out stronger on the finish with the water in it.
I don't. I get
And
it.
I don't think that either one of us mentioned cinnamon last time we tried it at all. So that's a new that came through on the finish pretty heavy for me actually.
Well, that's this one. So a lot of times water will change the profile, either the smell or the taste or both. This time it really didn't affect it for me. You got a little bit more cinnamon with it.
So I think that we need to start being a little more in depth. Like we still do our ranking and everything, but I think coming off of the tasting it made me realize how vague we kind of were sometimes. I think that we need to start talking about the aroma and how what we think of it. So I think we've covered
I
that
thought
pretty
we
good
kind of do that in our
in our own
because
way.
I mean we're not a
We
professional.
don't talk about the finish like at all, though.
We hardly ever do. We talk about well it lingered in, and then I talk about sometimes how it sets there, and I taste
We
something
we say
different.
dry sometimes
And
because some of
dry.
them are just
The
very
dry one is obvious.
yeah.
When it's dry, it like sucks your mouth in, and it's
It's-
dry. So I don't know. You is my turn or your turn?
Technically, I went first when we did the other Blanton stream,
Well,
but
you should go first this one
okay.
because
So,
nobody's going to see that.
so starting out, very good overall. I have no complaints. Purdue, I agree with the producer. She was saying that it sits on your palate for a while, and it just keeps coming back, and that's not something I dislike at all. It makes it seem like you just took a drink of it even a couple minutes later. Uh, but it doesn't burn. The proofage is so mild on it, but still enough to have a very mild, just little slap in the face there. I think that this is so. This is what 120?
93 proof.
No,
Oh,
price
well, if you get it at the distillery, it's $75.
$75.
If you go out to a liquor store, it's probably about $130
Okay, well, needless to say,
compared to about $259 and over 300
proof wise,
at a liquor store.
proofage wise, I'd say that this is beginner friendly. Price range, probably not. Even if you're getting it at
Yeah.
distillery, would I recommend getting this at the distillery? Yes, any chance that you possibly can. At the distillery, any chance that you can, because I don't think that 75 is a bad price for that bottle at all. Would I pay 120 to 130 for this in a retail store? I couldn't find it at the distillery. Yes, I'd do it once. I wouldn't recommend doing it a lot. If you have the opportunity to the distillery and get it, by all means, please do.
Or any MSRP store, like
Yes.
Kroger, Walmart, if they ever get it.
Hello, don't give away our spots.
Oh,
What are you doing? Oh my gosh.
so liquor barn,
Easy killing. Lay off, guys. That's our stockage.
I think everybody knows.
Probably.
It's too hard to get
If
them
you
there.
can get this for MSRP, I recommend getting it as much as you possibly can, or as much as you go through, because it is a very good bourbon. It's a very good sipper. Like I said, the proofage is mild enough to be beginner friendly. Price range maybe not so much, but it is a very good bourbon if you're wanting to step your bourbon game up. I think that is a step in the right direction if you're wanting to go away from the more common ones like Maker's Mark or Woodford. Even though I love Woodford, it is a step up. I think the aromas were fantastic. It's a very sweet bourbon. I think the taste kind of followed suit on that. Very sweet, desserty like, and the finish was smooth. I talked about the cinnamon because I don't know why. I don't know if I've ever had a bourbon that on the finish I just picked out something like that just stood out. But for some reason today, the palate's a little different, and I was picking out cinnamon on the finish, but it's still smooth. It's not like you're taking a shot of Fireball or something. It's very mild. Uh, but I think, I mean, I guess that's all I had to say about it. Very good bourbon. Are we ranking them, or am I going to wait until
No,
after
go
you
ahead
do
and
your?
put a rank, and then I'll do my
All right, so we
review.
normally do a ranking on 1 to 10, and we've for some reason started doing decibels. Uh, I think I'm going to give this one. I don't remember what I ranked it the other day, but I'm going to do an
8.
8.
You ranked that bottle a 9.
Did I really?
Yeah,
I think 8's still fantastic ranking.
it is a good rank.
You should have ranked it a 9.
You did because I went 7.5, and that's we were the furthest apart that we've.
Okay,
ever
then I'll
been
do
with.
8.5 just to be a little closer to 9. Because I mean, My opinion has not changed from the last time that I drank it. I just don't remember what I ranked it. So
You were feeling generous the other day. I
maybe
tried it.
very good
After
bourbon.
so much terrible screaming things, we were feeling generous.
Yeah, I say, you know what? Good
All right.
karma.
Yeah.
Good karma.
All right. So my opinion of this, very enjoyable. At the distillery, it's $75, so it is pricey bourbon. This is a bourbon that I think most people will want in your house. You'll want to share this with friends. You got friends come over and you want them to have a top shelf bourbon. This is the one you ought to pull down because, and here's why: everybody has an opinion of Blanton's. Most people have tried it. If it's not just a shot in a bar or something, they've got a bottle themselves at some point in their lives. They're a bourbon drinker. So this is something you're going to have, you're going to pour, and you're going to share with your friends, and there's going to be a lot of conversation about it. And that
A lot of smiling faces too.
that's what bourbon is to me. Bourbon is to take down off your shelf, pour a bunch of glasses with your friends, and talk about bourbon. And that's what we did yesterday.
That's what we did yesterday.
And
It was a
man,
great time.
those are great times, and we'll talk more about that next week.
Next
but
week,
still,
that is what we were doing next week. Tasting recap of the Bourbon Basement tasting take 3. That was our third tasting in the Bourbon Basement.
yeah, but I think just our second recap, right? Yeah.
Third tasting in the Bourbon Basement.
First one we didn't wasn't streaming.
So take 2.
Yeah. But this one here, it's true to my nose. I get some caramel, I get some honey, and I get some oak. It's pretty simple. You can pull them out real easy.
Lots
the
of
smells,
goodness.
the taste is the same, except throw a little bit of brown sugar in there. You all threw up the candied caramelized peaches for like a peach.
I didn't get the peach. I got the candy on top.
I didn't get peach either, and my brown sugar note wasn't as strong as maybe yours was, but longer. It has a good mouthfeel. It coats the mouth well.
What do you call it? You might as well say it.
A good Kentucky chew.
Yeah.
It sets on the tongue well. It's not thin and rolls off. It's not oily. It stays there and lets you experience the
I'm
flavors.
still getting after flavors.
It lets you experience them, and that's where I got a little bit more brown sugar and some of the sweetness. But I think that oak just miles it out. This is a fantastic bourbon to me, and I really enjoy it. But I'm going to stay true to Friday's rating and give it a 7 point.
I mean, still, guys.
Very
7.5.
Anything over 5 is fantastic. 5 is good. Anything above that's great.
5 is like flatline. That's a good bourbon. Anything below that, we're probably not going to recommend it.
Yeah, price is a big factor in this one.
And I took that into my consideration too, because it is affordable if you're, like I said, if you're wanting to up your bourbon game, if you had the opportunity to get to the distillery and get it at MSRP, or if you had the opportunity to get it on a shelf at an MSRP store, do it. 100%.
And I think your negative comments and your negative reviews on this is because it is so expensive.
It is high. If you get for a retail price,
it's a good bourbon inside the bottle is very good.
Like I said, I would get it for retail price once, just to have it. I would pay the $120 to $130 once.
So, and with that, you gave it an 8.5. I gave it a 7.5. It's a good bourbon. I'd give it 2 thumbs up. I think I told you that Friday. I'd give it 2 thumbs up. So
this is not a happy little accident.
Let's just real quick. I'm gonna put out a video. We're gonna put out a video. It's not gonna be a live stream. The live stream's Friday at 6, by the way.
Oh,
we will be back to that.
We didn't even talk about these.
Cool little bag with your gold, and
I think we talked about these last time. This one actually goes with your barrel proof. The black one goes with the gold.
We're gonna put out a video. We've had some comments on our stream about some bottom shelf bourbons. I've even had a comment say, "Hey, what's the best $10 bourbon that you can get?"
And we've been doing a lot of big names here on the Bourbon Basement.
And I like doing those names. I like doing bourbons that is hard to find because I want to try them all. And it seems like, Jim Beam and Maker's Mark and Benchmark are real easy to find, real easy to get. So I tend to go towards those ones.
It makes it much more satisfying to try.
It is. So we are going to do a stream this week. It'll just be on our video tab. It won't be on our live tab. And it's going to be the best $10 bourbon that I found at Walmart.
It's not a stream. We are going to be uploading a video tomorrow. Or I lied, guys. We're going to be uploading a video Tuesday because I will have to go through and edit said video and make sure it's good to post. So that will be posted Tuesday. Okay. We will record it tomorrow night and it will be.
But it'll be on the video tab.
It'll be on the video tab. It will not be on the live stream.
And it's just going to be a tasting video, no history, nothing like that. And we found 4 bottles at Walmart. We're going to put them down. We're going to compare them side to side and tell you which is the best $10 bottle that I bought at Walmart that day.
And they're all
that had a liquor department.
They are all under $10. There's not one that's $10.50. There's not one that's anything.
Nope,
These are all under $10 even.
There was a 5th bottle there that was $10.99 and I didn't get it.
So every one of them was below $10. So that should be a very interesting video that you all get to look forward to.
I'm not looking forward to it. Really? Just to be honest, I'm not looking forward to it.
See, look, he's been spoiled.
I have
drink bottom shelf stuff.
I can't drink it, but we're going to do a tasting of it straight and
straight. That's a big thing. I will agree with him there.
Great, and those are always mixers. But we're going to try them straight, and we're going to give you our opinion, which is the best $10 bottle. And after that video, depending on the views and comments we get, we may go up to the next level between $10 and $15, and then we may go between $15 and $20, and give you all some real affordable bourbons that are good or that we think are good.
And if they go over well, we could start doing videos like that.
Just a taste comparison instead of a history breakdown on
once
our
or
life.
Twice a month.
I like the way we run our lives, so I don't want to change that.
No, I'm saying videos.
Yeah, just
we could do 2 of those videos maybe a month, or
just
one
to give them some affordable choices
if they
that
go
you all can get. All right.
Anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it. I think 7.5 and an 8.5 is a very good ranking for this bourbon. Like I said, I recommend getting it if you're wanting to step up your bourbon game, or if you just got the money spent and you want to try some Blantons, go for it. I mean, you're going to enjoy yourself. I don't know if I've ever talked to someone that has not enjoyed.
See, I've heard mixed reviews and I've read mixed reviews.
I've not personally talked to anyone,
but most of it is the cost.
And I can.
A lot of it, they say they can get a better single barrel for less, and maybe they can. But we're not comparing bourbon to bourbon right now. So go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, but that's all we had to say, guys. We just wanted to once again get this stream out since we had a bunch of difficulties Friday. It looks like this stream has gone over well, which is what we hoped Friday. But 2 times I took just a step of me now. But hopefully everything has gone well. Hopefully you all have a great weekend. All that being said, guys, tune in next Friday. Once again, we'll be posting that video Tuesday, and tune in next Friday when we go live at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully everything goes as smooth as it does, or it has this stream.
When we got people that's expected, it seems like chaos ensues.
Well, we just wanted to get a video out there for you all just because we felt bad about how everything happened. But all that being said, guys, thank you all for giving us a little bit of time out of your day. If you do go back and watch this, hopefully it is up to par with what we think the Bourbon Basement quality should be.
Yes.
All that being said, guys, we'll see y'all Friday. Why drink alone when you can drink with us? Sorry, I'm used to doing videos.
When you can drink with us.
Why drink alone
when you can drink with us?
We will see y'all next Friday.
Hey, you owe me a hug.
I do owe you a hug.
All right. That is so cool.
All right. Bye, guys.